Alright people, at long last, we finally have some fight news on Moses Itauma. It's actually quite a good fight. It's a fight that I think it just is a no-brainer for me to make at this stage in his career. Now, it's not going to be on December the 13th. That was the original date we were hearing. We were hearing Itauma was going to be fighting in the Co-op Arena in Manchester. Also on that card was going to be Derek Chisora. Whether he'd be headline or not, we didn't know. But it was going to be his last fight. Obviously, Chisora drives a hard bargain. So first it was meant to be Dillian, then it was Miller, then it was Dillian Whyte. None of them happened, so that date is essentially scrapped. It also meant as well that we couldn't get Moses Itauma out before the end of the year, which is a worry when you consider that this year this is only his second year as a professional, and he's only had 3 rounds all year in 2 fights. It's crazy. Needs more than that. He really does. But he is starting the new year off with a bang. He is hitting the ground running. And let's have a read of this TalkSport article. Moses, because it's not on BoxRec currently, but they've already announced the card. It's a Magnificent 7 card, a return to them, which is good. They're always very, very good. Magnificent being the word, they are very, very good. It says here, Moses Itauma set to face ex-Anthony Joshua opponent as his return date gets pushed back. So, it says Moses Itauma will fight Jermaine Franklin on his return to the ring. The pair will lock horns at the top of Queensberry's Magnificent 7 bill on January the 24th at the Co-op Live in Manchester, with Willie Hutchinson versus Ezra Taylor acting as chief support. They got into a little bit of a scrap or an altercation, didn't they, after Ezra Taylor fought on the undercard of Parker versus Wardley. Certainly there was at least a shouting match. Also says Britain Nathan Heaney will also return on the card against Jermaine Warburton, having not fought since outpointing Grant Dennis in July. Brad Pauls, Liam Davis, Aggie Faz, I believe is how you say that guy's name, are also set the box on the Manchester card in respective bouts as well. Itauma is one of the hottest prospects in boxing right now. He stopped British boxing veteran Dillian Whyte in 1 round in his last fight. The 20-year-old was originally scheduled to make his comeback on the Queensberry December the 13th show in Manchester against Kubrat Pulev alongside Dillian Whyte versus Derek Chisora 3. That would have been a serious, that right there, you could definitely justify that on pay-per-view if it was all those combined. But after reports suggested Chisora meeting with Whyte was off, Itauma was pulled from the card. The Chatham Southpaw will now get his chance to move one step closer to a fight with Alexander Usyk through a blockbuster heavyweight clash with Franklin in the new year. Franklin, 32, is on a 3-fight winning streak in the squared circle, having suffered only 2 losses in his 26-fight career. Franklin had previously lost his last defeat came at the hands of Anthony Joshua when the pair met in the O2 Arena 2 years ago. Prior to that, he had tasted his first professional defeat to Dillian Whyte just 5 months prior. And I have to say, the card itself really does look good. What else is it there? The American outpointed Ivan Ditchko in his last fight just 2 months ago at the Arlington Stadium in Las Vegas. Or Alginet Stadium in Las Vegas. Itauma is currently ranked number 1 by WBA and WBO and number 4 by WBC. Several names, including Pulev, Adelaide, Michael Hunter, have been floating around the idea of fighting boxing's potential next superstar. This month, WBO president revealed that newly crowned WBO interim champion Fabio Wardley, who shockingly stopped Joseph Parker last month, could be ordered to defend his belt against Itauma if a blockbuster fight with the Ukrainian doesn't happen. That was if Usyk has justifiable reason to delay his mandatory, having been sidelined due to an ongoing back injury. I already talked about that one in a separate video. So let's talk about Itauma versus Jermaine Franklin. They obviously did try and get the Pulev fight over the line for the WBA regular title. It wouldn't have been a real world title. It would have just been that little trinket title of regular, whatever it's worth. They did try and obviously get that fight over the line. It didn't happen. Pulev is now going to defend his title against Murat Gassiev sometime in early December. I forget actually where they're doing it, but they are going to have that fight. So it meant that Itauma, we were asking the questions. We were saying, well, who is he going to be fighting? Because names like Jarrell Miller were chucked around. Apparently he priced himself out. We didn't hear about the likes of Martin Piccoli. We thought it might be Hughie Fury. There was a bit of a tease that he'd be in a big fight, which he really isn't, quite frankly. He's fighting Michael Weber, which is just meh. That's all that is. Then we were hearing Michael Hunter, who will be fighting in December, but into your call. So all these guys we were hearing, they were all being, floated around. Didn't happen with any of them. Jermaine Franklin was a name that immediately after his inadvertent commas win over Ivan Ditchko back in September, we thought, well, they're setting it up for Itauma versus Jermaine Franklin in December, because that fight that he had against Ivan Ditchko was shocking, to say the least. He didn't win that fight. He won it officially on the scorecards, but like, go and watch it. It's not a great watch, but he was soundly beaten. But he got the decision. And a lot of people were speculating the reason why he got the decision was to set this fight up for December. But ultimately, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. It fell through. We were hearing, as I said, all these other names. So it did kind of leave us in a bit of a limbo as to what's going to happen with Moses Itauma. But now, come the end of January, so it's an extra, 5 weeks or so, 5-6 weeks after where he should have been fighting. I like this opponent, though. I really do. I think that Jermaine Franklin versus Moses Itauma is a really, really good fight for Itauma's progression. I think he's a solid opponent. I've got no issues whatsoever. It's on a very, very good card. No mention of pay-per-view as well, which is even better. But it's a solid opponent. Jermaine Franklin, when he fought Dillian Whyte, going into that fight, I kind of looked at him and thought, he looked awkward, but nothing special. He gave a good account of himself against Dillian Whyte. Some people actually felt that he did enough to win the fight. I wasn't one of them. I thought Dillian Whyte won the fight. Close, but no issue with him getting the decision. He then goes in with Anthony Joshua, and you could argue in terms of Anthony Joshua's comeback fights before he ended up fighting Dubois, Jermaine Franklin was probably the best out of them, because he fought him, then he fought Hellenius, who was in no great shakes, then he fought Otto Wallin. I think I'd probably take Jermaine Franklin over Otto Wallin, to be honest with you, and then we won't mention Ngannou because he's not really a boxer. So he went in there against Joshua. He acquitted himself very well. Never touched down in either of those fights. I think Dillian Whyte did stun him a little bit in their fight, but Joshua never really came close to stunning them at all. And Jermaine Franklin showed, if nothing else, he's an awkward night's work for anybody. If your world level are going to be getting there, you've got to have to work against this guy, because he's not as simple as, crash bang wallop, he's gone. No, he takes a good shot. He's awkward. He's not a big puncher. So you have to be you have to be on it, and you have to try and just fiddle your way through this fight and get through it. If Itauma goes in there and does a job, which I think he will, I think he's going to beat Jermaine Franklin, of course. But if he goes in there and he does a job like he did against Dillian Whyte or against Mike Balogan, then we really gotta stop and say, whoa, hang on a minute, because Ivan Ditchko, I mean, obviously it says he lost the fight, but he really didn't. He should have won it. But still, he went the distance. Dillian Whyte went the distance. AJ went the distance. So if Itauma's going in there and he's going and putting a beating on this guy and stopping him early, then that's really something interesting. I think he will beat him. Whether he stops him or not, I don't know. But I think he will beat him. I think this is great matchmaking, because there's no use putting him in there with names like a Dillian Whyte who are shot to bits and can't take a shot anymore. There's just no point, because you're getting a first round knockout. Yeah, happy days. You've got a big name on your resume, but at the end of the day, you shot to bits. At least Jermaine Franklin is still somewhat useful. He's somewhat relevant as well. He's a contender, fringe contender. He's probably on the level of a Charles Martin now at this stage, really, kind of like that. But he's durable. He's game. He'll probably come to give it a go. And he'll bring Itauma rounds, which is the crucial thing. At the end of the day, right, you could have 2 fights in a calendar year as a prospect, right? It's not ideal, but you can do it. But if you're going rounds, if you're being asked questions, that's something. He wasn't asked questions in either of the fights, really. Balogan gave it a go. Dillian Whyte, that was it. First meaningful combination Itauma landed if the fight was over. So I think he'll bring him rounds if nothing else. And this could be a start of a good year for Itauma next year. I like the fight. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Itauma announced that he will be fighting Jermaine Franklin next on a particularly good Queensberry bill, it has to be said. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you could, smash the like button, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. And until next time, people, peace.